almost like telling you a date, because the Passover is part of this divine calendar. But the divine calendar is not only what the Jews celebrated God with, it's also a picture, a map of the future. And it shows us that God says he has plans for the future that involve his ownership of the land of Israel and the people. Now that's all in Leviticus 23. So you can start turning to Leviticus 23. We're going to look at each part of it today. We started looking at inspiration, then we looked at an overview of how Leviticus fits in the Bible, then we looked at the key verses, we looked at those 5 offerings, then we started looking at the priests, if you remember all that anointing their toes and thumbs, and then the getting into the leprosy, the whole inspection, the Day of Atonement, and then we looked at all those consequences right here. If you obey, I'll bless you if you don't. Now we're here, and the divine calendar is fascinating. This is the calendar, this is one form of it. There are 7 Jewish feasts. Now remember, God likes the number 7. How many days in the week? 7. How many numbers? How many notes in the musical scale?
7.
Yeah, and the 8th note is just a repeat of the 8th is just a start over again. And that, how many colors are in the spectrum? Yeah, everything is built around, it's interesting, in the scriptures, there's this backdrop of 7s. And in theology, we call it heptads. That's the English word for a group of 7. Like a group of 12 is called a dozen. A group of 7 is called a heptad. A group of 3 is called what? Triplet or a triple or something like that. See, there are designations for groups of numbers. God built the scriptures around 7s. In fact, when you get to the book of Revelation, what do you see everywhere? Everything, 7 churches and 7 lampstands and 7 seals and 7 bowls and 7 trumpets and 7 last, it's just boom, boom, boom. Okay, in the spring, in the Jewish month of Nisan, on the 15th day on the 14th day is Passover, on the 15th day is unleavened bread, and on the 17th day is the Feast of First Fruits, and then 50 days after Passover starts Pentecost, then there's this break, and then onward goes the final fall feast. Each of these feasts, as I've already told you, Passover is when Christ was crucified. He was buried during the 3 days of unleavened bread. He rose at the Feast of First Fruits and sent his Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost. All of that, those feasts were fulfilled at Christ's first coming. There he's seen as a priest and a suffering servant, as the one who did all of this offering of Passover and unleavened bread and first fruits. Then in the fall, notice that these are 3 separate months. Nisan, that's the beginning of the religious year. Sivan, that's the 7th month, that's Pentecost in the summer. And then the 10th month, Tishri it's called, is the fall festival. If you're ever in Israel in the fall, it's really fun to see. They actually still do all these things. They build booths, they call them, out of palm branches. And the family goes outside and stays in them to remember living in the wilderness. And so all of these things are not just in the Bible, they're still doing them. But the Feast of Trumpets, if you remember what Paul says in 1 Thessalonians, that with the voice of the archangel at the last trumpet, that the dead in Christ are raised. This idea of the trumpet sounding is interestingly parallel to the Feast of Trumpets, which is all about blowing trumpets, which could be when Christ chooses to come back. Then the Day of Atonement, this very sacred time where people consider all that they've done. The Jewish people on the Day of Atonement actually goes families out and they give each of their family members a little piece of bread, and they stand by running water and they take the bread and they throw it in the water so that it will float away. And what the bread is a picture of all their sins and everything they've done wrong, and they throw it in there for it to go away. And then when they're all done, they feel like they have confessed, and so even today, the Jewish people have this sense of sinfulness, and they don't know what to do with it, so they go through these Day of Atonement ceremonies. And usually, this is the only commanded fast, where in the Bible, in Leviticus, the whole nation was to fast for one day, to be very aware of their sin. And then it rolls right into this Feast of Tabernacles, which is the happiest time of the year. It's just a whole week of eating and being together as a family. It's like a big camp out. And that parallels, if this is the rapture, this would be the tribulation. This would be the millennium rolling into the time that we go to heaven. And, that heaven in the Bible, we're in the presence of the Lord, but heaven described in chapter 21 and 22. What's interesting is Paul, in Colossians 2, talks about Judaism and all these ceremonies, and he says, these are a shadow of things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ. So these feasts were given to the Jews, but they shadowed all that Jesus was planning to do. He's already come and died and been buried and rose and sent his Spirit. He's coming back. He's going to judge the world. He's going to make all things new. All of those are the shadow of things that were to come. Okay, so now, what's the purpose of the Sabbath for us today? And that's what I'd really like to talk about, because you live in the most pressured generation, I think, that there's been, and there's some real lessons for us. Basically, that Paul says in Philippians, in fact, if you don't know that verse, Philippians 3:20 says, our citizenship is in heaven. And I think we need to ponder, why would Paul say in verse 20, for our citizenship is in heaven? Well, he was talking, let's see, who teaches Philippi? I saw them on the list. Dave Nightingale, or Philippians. Has he been here yet? Dave Nightingale is coming. Good friend of mine. He's going to probably teach on this verse, but think of why God says that we are citizens of heaven. In Rome, if you were a citizen, you followed the laws of Rome, you wore the dress of Rome, you spoke the language of Rome. See, to be a citizen, you adopted the marks of citizenship. What does it mean that we're citizens of heaven? Well, the Sabbath was a way God made Israel reflect Him. How would you like to live in a world where everybody else did everything 7 days a week, and you were not allowed to do anything on the Sabbath day? That's how Israel was. It totally separated them from everybody they lived around. They had this Sabbath rule that they could be stoned, killed by stoning, if they did anything on the Sabbath day. The whole place shut down. When we go to Israel, I don't know on your tours if you experience it, but it's hard to find a cup of coffee, especially on any of those festivals they have. They shut the whole country down. The grocery stores are closed, the gas stations are closed. It's like everything comes to a halt. And when we were there in June, we actually couldn't get anything. We were running out of milk and gas and coffee, and it was hard. And it was shut down to reflect God's ownership of the nation. He put that on. Also, their clothes. The Jewish people couldn't wear clothes mixed with fabrics. They couldn't eat food that wasn't kosher, that wasn't clean. So every time they went to their friend's house in the Holy Land, they'd have to say, I can't eat any of that, and I can't eat any of that. And by the way, I can't do anything today. I can't go over and visit you. And all those rules were meant by God to show their citizenship. But for us, my question is, are we reflecting our heavenly citizenship by our time investment and calendar? Do unsaved people see that you are on a different schedule than they are? Because if you really believe the Bible, you really believe that this is not what we're living for, this world, getting a bigger job and house, that we're living for something else? Or do we look just like them? See, the Canaanites, gradually the Jews became just like them. And that's why the Lord was so displeased with them. Okay, a citizen of Rome spoke the language of Rome. What was the language of Rome? Latin, remember? Latin killed the Romans, and it almost killed me in school. That's what, we all had to take Latin when I was in school. They obeyed the laws of Rome. They wore the dress of Rome. There was a specific style of clothing that the Roman Empire was characterized by that was not barbarian. The barbarians dressed differently, and the Roman people dressed a certain way. But most of all, look at this. They followed the calendar of Rome. Rome was the capital of the empire, and Rome said, on this day we're going to have a festival, on this day we're having the gladiators, on this day we're having the sports, on this day we're having this. And guess what happened the more Christians began to increase? The crowds lessened in the Colosseum because the Christians said, we can't go. That was one of the reasons they got persecuted, because the Christians were not following the calendar of Rome. Do you know what's interesting in America? There's a football game on Sunday, and most people won't go to church that day. They go and watch the football game. Anybody know what it's called? Yeah, the Super Bowl. Try and have a church service on Super Bowl Sunday night. They won't come. I mean, I've been a pastor almost 40 years. I've had people looking right now, I will not come. I don't care what service you have. I'm going to watch Super Bowl. I thought, whose calendar are you following? Have you ever thought of that? People don't think of that. They think, hey, if everybody else is going to the Super Bowl, I'm going to go to the Super Bowl. Instead of saying that God sets my schedule, not the world. So this is a very interesting topic. Citizens of heaven, Philippians 3:20 says, our citizenship is in heaven. But what characterized citizens of heaven is that they had a hunger for God more than a hunger for the world. Now, does anybody know what 1 John 2:15 through 17 says? Love not the world. Anybody learn that verse yet? Okay, how about a volunteer to read 1 John 2, and the rest of you maybe should look it up because it's a very serious verse. And it's kind of why I'm slowing down and going through this calendar thing. Because your calendar reflects who owns you. What owns you? Okay? And I see Nate has it. Can you read 2:15 to 17 of 1 John for us?
Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eyes, and the pride of the possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away, along with its desires. But whoever does the will of the Father, the will of God, abides forever.
Now, you said some pretty strong words in there. At the end of verse 15, it says, if anyone loves the world, the love of the what?
Love of the Father is not in him.
Whoa. Does that communicate to you? Do you understand how that is really serious? What God says is, if you're a world lover, you're not in my family. You do not have my love in you. Isn't that interesting? When was 1 John written in the spectrum of the Bible? Kind of where it is in your Bible. It's near the what? Yeah. 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude and Revelation are all really at the end. 70s, 80s, 80s, 90s. Revelation 90s for sure. And so John is looking as the last apostle at the church that's growing. And he said, some of you are in the church building, the church group. But you don't hunger for God. You are following Rome's schedule, not God's schedule. You love the world. You love the things that are in the world. You are not loving God. So, very serious. So, our operating system, or worldview as believers is, we are God-centered. We are different In America, I used to be a truck driver, shifting, driving the truck, delivering stuff. When I got out of high school, I drove trucks. And I used to pull my truck in and park and go to the break room for where all the other workers, and every one of them in there were unsaved, and they were all talking about what unsaved people talk about. And I would sit over in the corner because what unsaved people talk about that are single men truck drivers is usually about women. And they all were talking about what girl they picked up in the bar and how far they got to go with her and what they're going to do the next night, blah, blah, blah. So I would sit over in the corner. And I always carried in my back pocket a little Gideon-like New Testament. And I'd pull that thing out and I'd be reading because we had coffee breaks, 10 minutes, no work. Oh, they'd make fun of me, and when I'd come in, they'd say, here comes the deacon, and they'd talk a little quieter because they didn't want me to hear all their stuff. But guess what? When one of them, their mother got cancer, who do you think they ran over and talked to? They'd say, can you pray for me? They said, what do you mean? They said, well, we know, you said, my mother has cancer. Or when they got sick, they said, does God make people sick for? They were anything to do with God. They knew that my life was centered on God. Now, they thought it was funny until their mother got sick, they lost their job, or they got sick, or they were scared. Then they go toward the people that are God-centered. That's what we're supposed to be in this world. Chuck Swindoll was a Marine, just like you, Paul, and when he was on Okinawa serving the United States Marine Corps, every Friday, all the Marines they got their money, and they all went into town to Okinawa to spend all their money at the bars on the geisha girls. That was just Marine life. And Chuck Swindoll stayed in the dorms, the barracks, because he said, I'm not going into town because everybody from the Marines that goes into town are drinking and committing immorality. And he says, if I even ride the bus in, they'll all think I'm like that. He is an American pastor, Chuck Swindoll is his name. His ministry is so powerful because he lived what he's teaching and what he taught back then. Secondly, our operating system is God's glory focused. See, the world lives for how much fun they can have, how many people they can impress, how much money they can amass. We focus on how much we can glorify God. This morning, Bonnie and I were talking about Jean Hawkins. Did you know if Jean had not encouraged and supported her husband and come over here because he wanted to teach the Bible and give up his career as an electrical engineer or whatever he was, she would not be immersed in the center of all you all as a widow. She'd be very alone somewhere in Virginia or West Virginia. Have you ever thought about how, because she had a passion for the glory of God and followed her husband, the Lord knew John was going to graduate to heaven, and he wanted to have Jean in just the right spot when John graduated. That's what happens to people whose lives are God's glory focused. We run a different beat. God has a plan. This most amazing thing. Turn your Bibles to Psalm 16:11. This is probably one of my favorite verses. I have a lot of favorite verses, but this is near the top. When you get on God's calendar, when you desire to be God's glory focused, there's something he gives you. And it came out a little bit yesterday in your Q&As that you asked, those sweet questions you asked Bonnie and you asked me. Psalm 16:11, does anybody know it by heart? Okay, someone read it to us, Psalm 16:11.
You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore.
That is one of the most amazing verses in the Bible. Number one, God says, I will make known to you the path of life. How many of you wonder what God's will is for your life? Boy, I do. Guess what? God wants to show it to you more than you even want to know it. But not just show it to you, he wants to be our guide. When you go to the Holy Land, Mark Strout and probably Steve, I don't know who all, is going to guide you because most of you are going somewhere you've never been. And they're going to say, get on the bus, we're going here, and tell the bus driver, and they go there and they say, get off the bus and follow me and look over there. You would never be able to find the places they're showing you on your own. You have to follow a guide. And then you learn. You can find them yourself after you're shown. That's what God offers to us. When I was in seminary, I was a normal seminary student. They gave you assignments, just like you guys have all these assignments, memorizing all these verses, like 1 Peter 3:9. Can you say it to us? Or is it 2 Peter 3:9? 1 Peter, 2 Peter, okay. But we had assignments, and my assignment was I had to do a hospital visit. I was in the ministerial class. And so I said, I don't know how to do a hospital visit. They just said, go to the hospital, visit someone. So I went to the city hospital, walked in, and looked in each room. You know, got a little embarrassed because a couple of them had bedpans and stuff. And I said, I don't want to go in that room. I finally got a good room. And I said, can I visit you? There's this guy laying in bed. He said, sure thing, man. No one else has visited me. And I walked in the door, took my Bible, read him the scriptures, prayed with him, and said, thank you. That was my assignment. And I closed my Bible to leave. And he says, hey, wait a minute. Aren't you going to do anything for me? I listened to you for your assignment. I said, what would you like? He said, I'd like a Wendy's triple. That's a hamburger. I said, what? He says, man, you die in the hospital. He says, they don't give you any food here. He says, they won't feed me. And I thought, a Wendy's triple? That cost $2 or $3. And I didn't have any money as a student, but I thought, wow, I imposed on him and did my visit. I'm going to go back. So I went out the back stairway of the hospital, walked all the way down the street, went to Wendy's hamburger place, bought a triple, walked up the back stairs so no one would see me, handed him the bag, and said, there you go. I just gave him a present. I turned around with my Bible, walked out, and I said, what's your name? Where do you live? And I said, you know, I told him I'm a student over there at Bob Jones, and I live in room whatever, 306. He said, just a second, he wrote that down. He said, thank you. 2 weeks later, in the mail, I got an envelope made of paper that comes from cloth. It's different than paper from wood and trees. It's a very expensive, and it was inlaid. It was embossed letters. They weren't just written on, they were embossed in the envelope. And it was big. And I thought, wow, this is really neat. And I opened it, and it was a single sheet. It said, you are invited to dinner. Come out front of where you live at 6 p.m. on this date. I thought, oh, because I'm always hungry. And it says, wear your best. And so I did it. I got all dressed up. And it said the guy from the hospital. And so I thought, oh, this is nice. My triple, I'm going to get back, you know. A limousine pulled up with multiple doors. They opened the door and put me in, and there he was sitting in the back seat. He said, we're going to dinner. I said, where is this? I'm the guy tonight. We went to a restaurant that most of us in this room have never been to anything like it. You know there's something wrong when they don't have prices. There were no prices on anything. Nothing had a price. And there are a few tables, and what they did, the short of it is, they pushed a cart out to our table. You have multiple waiters. We had 4 or 5 waiters for our table. And they pushed the cart out, and they pulled a cloth that was over a marble slab that had an entire part of a cow on it. I don't know what part that was, but the man was sharpening his knife. And he says, what cut of beef would you like? Most people get it all cut up already with plastic on it. They cut out of the side of the cow the steak that we wanted, because there's porterhouses and T-bones and sirloins and strips, and all of them were there. And this person cut, and he would move the knife and say, how thick do you want? I thought, this is really nice. And so, boy, we had this big meal. And what I learned is this guy was stranded in our town. He had gotten sick with pneumonia. He was up in the hospital. His family lived in Texas. And I said, what did they do in Texas? He says, we have 10,000 acres of Arizona steer that graze around our oil rigs. So they had the best of both worlds. So he had 16 square miles of oil wells and was in the hospital alone. And I came and shared the gospel with him and prayed with him. So we had a great dinner. At the end of dinner, he says, what are you doing this summer? I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going on a missions trip. He said, where? I said, Europe. He said, could you go a week early? He said, I'd love to show you Europe. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, if you say yes, he said, I'll take care of the arrangements. Now look at Psalm 16:11. God says, I will show you the path of life. That man said, I will guide you for a week through Europe. I said, okay, Carl, I have to be in Germany for my missions trip on this date. I'll give you a week. He said, good. We flew to London. We got off the plane, but all the normal people walked down that gangway. There's also a door there. Most people don't see. As soon as you get off the airplane, on that gangway, there's a door. A man opened the door, and Carl and I walked directly from the plane down to a car. We didn't go through all that carousel, get your bags, have them stamped. Rich people don't do that. We walked to a car that drove us to a hotel. We didn't stop at the front desk. Our stuff was carried up for us. So you don't touch anything. We went to our rooms. Carl said across the hall, he says, hey, be ready in about 20 minutes. We're going to see a play and have dinner. I said, okay. So I got all dressed up. We walked to another car. It went to the back door of the theater. We got out to see a play in London, and we never saw it. We came into a box seat from the back door, right in front. I could see the eyelashes of Annie. That was the play that was playing then, Orphan Annie. I was so close to her, I could see her eyelashes. We went to dinner. He said, do you like seafood? I said, yeah. We went to dinner. It was 40 feet high, aquarium glass, filled with fish swimming in there. And they brought out pictures of the fish, and they said, what do you like? And I said, they said, sole is good. I said, I'd like sole. Someone goes in there and shot a swimming sole with a spear gun in front of me and cooked it. Now, do you eat in restaurants like that? No. That was the first day. This is a different way of life. They never ask how much anything costs. You never saw prices. Everything is just done for you. And we crossed Europe that way, ending up in Rome, and it was the most amazing trip. And you know what? I never would have experienced that if he had not shown me, Carl had not shown me. He said, I want you to see Europe the way I travel. Did you know that was neat? I'll never forget that. It was amazing. You know what's better? God wants to guide you through life. And it's even better than Carl, the oil man. And God says, I want you to, he finishes the verse with, the way you'll know you're following me in your presence is fullness of joy. If you have a cell phone, I don't know about what they have. Let me see if the cell tower here. Yep, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of 5 bars, of the little dots. What does that mean? It's how close I am to the cell tower, how the signal strength. If I get further away from the cell tower, I only have 3 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, and then it says no service, right? That is measuring how close I am to the tower that's putting the information to my phone. What does the Bible say? How do you know whether you're close to God or far away from Him? What's the middle of verse 11 say? In your presence is what? Joy is the measure of how close you are to God. And you know what a lot of people do? They go through life so abysmal and discouraged and depressed, and all it is they're moving away from the cell tower, not toward it. See, every day, if you are God-centered, you go toward Him. If you're God's glory focused, you're receiving Him. And what He does is, this is the cell phone strength. He feeds us through His Word. You can tell how strong and how much you're being guided by the Lord by where the Bible fits in your life. Okay, so we're pilgrims and strangers on earth. That's what it says in Hebrews 13. And what that means is, pilgrims means we're not staying on earth, we're headed somewhere else, and strangers means we don't really operate the way that the world does. So, what does that have to do with God's calendar? Well, basically this. These are the holidays, and each of these holidays speak of events that the Bible describes. Now, why is that important? Look at this. There are 879 verses found in John's Gospel. 660 of them are related to events occurring in the feasts of God's calendar. Turn for just a minute to John chapter 10. the Gospel of John, chapter 10. I want to just show you one of these markings in your Bible. John chapter 10, and it says in verse 22. What does John 10:22 say? The feast of what?
Dedication.
That is a marker of an event that takes place every year in Israel, and it's called Hanukkah. You ever heard of Hanukkah? The Jewish celebration? What month is that? When is Hanukkah? December. When was Jesus walking in verse 22 in the temple? December. Isn't that fascinating? See, if you know what these feasts are, back up. If you know what these feasts are, it immediately, you know what the people are doing. During Hanukkah, they have these huge menorahs with 8 arms instead of 7, and they're burning everywhere. And Jesus is walking in the temple during that time. It's the winter time. It's raining. It's cold, kind of like here. And all this stuff. And immediately, this calendar makes the Bible come alive. So we're supposed to be citizens of heaven living on earth. My question to you is, are you more in tune with earth or heaven? That's the question every day. Are you more aware of what God is doing, and you're in tune with that? Or is your citizenship more tied to the earth? More tied to, that life is about getting a good job, having happiness, in running through life and spending money and whatever. Rather than, I was bought at a price, I'm supposed to glorify God, I'm supposed to live for Him and do what He says. So, God's Word has a calendar in the background. It's God's timetable. Basically, that timetable that I've already shown you has started being fulfilled. Boom, 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 boom. We're right here. This is next. So if you know that at any moment Jesus could come to take you home, do you want to be found doing what He left us to do? See, that's the question. He left us here for a purpose. So, Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath cycle. What does the calendar look like? This year, on April 11th, is Passover. This year, I did the 2017 dates. Look in Leviticus 23:5. And I'm just going to show each of these if you've not marked them yet in your Bible. Leviticus 23:5 is the description. It says this, and you can catch, it actually starts in verse 4, but it says in verse 5, on the 14th day of the first month at twilight is the Lord's what? Passover. Now you remember what Passover is. It's a reminder of when they got out of the land of Egypt. Okay, next, look what it says in verse 6, first fruits. It says in verse 6, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And so that's when they, that's right down here, right there. Then, if you go all the way through to the end of that feast, let me go here, boom, look at verse 9. You get the unleavened bread. And the Lord said to Moses, when you come into the land, you shall bring a sheaf and wave it before the Lord. The unleavened bread ends with the celebration of this waving of the sheaf. Now keep going to verse 15. Verse 15, let me get to it. And you shall count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath. What day is the day after the Sabbath? Sunday. From that day brought the sheaf to wave offerings, the Sabbath shall be coming, and count 50 days to the day after the seventh Sabbath. And all this is talking about the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost. And that's how we get the day of Pentecost. Then the next one is in verse 23. That happens to be on September 21st of this year. It says this in verse 23, speak to the Lord in the seventh month. Verse 24, you shall have a Sabbath, a memorial, no customary work. And what is going on in that time? This next one, the Day of Atonement. That's what it starts talking about in verse 26. It says the Day of Atonement. And then finally, in October, they have this Feast of Tabernacles that's described. So this is the calendar that's in the background. But what they reflect is this. The 7 holidays were for the Jews 7 reasons to stop and think and remember. Remember our little wave offering thing? That everything we have comes from God, and everything we have belongs to God. That's what every one of these holidays were for them to pause and remember that their whole life comes from God. So, God told them that part of their celebration was this fasting. And my question for you is, how is your hunger for God? In the Old Testament, fasting was a call to get serious about knowing God. In the New Testament, we find Paul and the apostles often fasting. Now, I don't know how often, I don't know how much your church ever emphasizes fasting, but the New Testament church were often fasting. Why? It was a spiritual discipline. Fasting was to reschedule my life with God at the center. Instead of eating or relaxing or amusing or accumulating or advancing or securing or a multitude of other things that aren't wrong, they just don't help me be close to God. And the whole Sabbath day and the fasting associated with it was a reset button. So, my question to you today is, in the early church in Acts, the epistles, we see the biblical fasting shape their lives. Before they made any decisions, they fasted and prayed. Before they left on mission trips, they fasted and prayed. Before they launched on any evangelistic event, they fasted and prayed. That's what we see in the New Testament. In the early church, we see there's a powerful way to yield every part of our life to the Lord.